Thursday morning, New York City. What is up? It is the Boomer and Geo program on the Fan and CBS Sports Network. The number to call, 888-808-1019. It was a company live from the Built Ford Tubbs studio. A lot to get to today. We've got stuff from around the NFL, from the Combine, which we will hit on. We've got CeCe Sabathia going into getting his number retired. We will get into that at some point this morning as well. I got a couple of fun things, I think, along the way, too.
Fun things. I like it.
But, yes. Good morning, Boomer. Good morning, Boomer. Good morning, Boomer.
Hi, Jerry. Good morning. You're in the power chair this morning.
The really cool thing about this morning, and I was talking to Al about this yesterday on the warm-up show, is that I do think we need to talk more hockey, quite frankly. And what a better day than to start talking about hockey than the scene last night at the Run. Now, I know the Devils wound up losing the game, which was kind of a bummer if you're a Devils fan. But, you know, this Team USA gold medal train keeps running. And, you know, I made sure that I got to MSG at 6:30 last night because I was curious, you know, with Danico and Rupp and Rachel Herzog doing the pregame, and then I knew Don and Danico late. I wanted to see how they were going to respond and what they were going to do, and I thought they did it right, and it was really fun. And Jack Hughes with another moment in front of his own fans.
You know, I could be a real jerk and just say, oh, I didn't realize the Devils were playing last night.
They're not the Nets.
But you do know that I knew that they were playing last night because I was asking you, because we didn't know, but then we checked on it, and we saw that both Jack Hughes and Tage Thompson of the Buffalo Sabres were going to play in this game. And I think that I have gold medal fever. I don't know what it is, but it's
Jack Hughes.
It's the only way that I can explain why I would have turned on MSG to watch this and the beginning of the game as well, because I've never done that before, unless, of course, they're playing the Rangers. Mm-hmm. And, yes, I had to listen to Donnie and Kenny, and I thought it was amazing last night. I thought Jack bringing Tage Thompson on the ice with him was a tremendous job by him and unselfish. But that's the hockey nature. That's the hockey culture. We know that, and we've been around hockey for all these years. And I have to say, man, it gave me chills. Just gave me chills listening to him, you know, saying thank you to the fans for all the support, listening to the national anthem, of course, because we're also patriotic around this team. And I have to say that, yeah, I did watch it. And, of course, Tage Thompson scores a goal.
Of course.
Because, you know, that's just the way it works. And he probably would have done the same thing at Madison Square Garden. So tonight it is Madison Square Garden's turn to salute the gold medal players in Vinny Trocheck and J.T. Miller, who did get back at 2 a.m. and were on the ice yesterday, by the way, with their teammates. They felt like that was really important. And, of course, the coaching staff that coached the U.S. Men's team to gold medals. So, yeah. I mean, why not bask in it? That's what it's all about, and celebrate the players that accomplished something that hadn't been done in 46 years.
And you mentioned Thompson, and they clearly had something planned for him to go out there for the ceremonial puck drop, but I thought it was very cool that Hughes went over on his own.
It was kind of weird. You know why? If you're the visiting player, you're there, and you're not sure how things are going, and I'm sure they spoke to him before the game that this was going to happen, and it was just great. It was great, and watching the Devils fans serenade, obviously an American hero for scoring that goal was great. It was absolutely great. And the kid is humble. I think he's probably a little bit embarrassed by all the attention, I would think. But he's humble. Like that's the beauty of the hockey player, is that they recognize that they don't get it done without the other guys on the team. And in this case for the U.S. men's hockey team, and I could say the same for the U.S. women's hockey team, their goalies were incredible throughout the Olympic tournament. So, yeah, that was great last night. It really was.
It's funny when we look back, and you mentioned the other day how the radio station put the photo out in the interview of me and Gio with Jack Hughes 6 years ago. He was 18, 19 years old, whatever he was. And you look at the photo, and I remember you telling me when you came in a couple days after that, you're like, you guys got a guy that's going to be like a killer. Like, he is going to be a great player. And I remember, like, this kid, I remember thinking, like, he's younger than my son, like, or he's about the same age as my son. He looks like he's in 8th grade, and he has turned out to be everything that you've said he would be.
First and foremost, his parents deserve a lot of credit for raising 3 boys that are all NHL players, and Quinn Hughes is one of the best players in the NHL. I didn't realize how good his brother was. You see him every now and again. Because he was out in Vancouver, and now he gets traded to Minnesota, and then, of course, now comes the Olympics, and you get to see some of the things that his brother Quinn is able to do. So you could see, and Luke too, by the way, is a really good player too. I mean, so the parents first and foremost deserve all the credit. Their mom was a great hockey player in her own right, and she is a development coach for the USA women's hockey team. So that family is just left an indelible mark on hockey. There's no other way to look at it, and it should be celebrated. And by the way, it was interesting. You hear all the arguing back and forth between, should the men be celebrated and the women aren't celebrated, and back and forth. It's just, it's mind-boggling how much intensity there is around any of this, and how many people don't want to embrace the patriotism that is associated with it. I mean, what are the Olympics? The Olympics are countries, competing against each other.
For their countries.
For their countries. And every single one of those athletes representing those other countries have the same patriotic ideals for their country as our athletes have for our country, for the most part. And, that's what it's about. It's about the red, white, and blue. It's about the flag, and it's about being proud of the accomplishments of all the athletes that won medals over there. And, it's interesting. I was reading, and I don't know if people know this. So when you're an Olympic athlete, you go and you live in the Olympic Village if you want to. Or you could be a part of the Canadian national hockey team and move to a 5-star hotel and get
a lot of the hockey. So the U.S. guys were talking about that. They were one of the only teams that stayed in the village. By the way,
they stayed in the Olympic Village. They stayed in the dorms. The Hughes brothers roomed together. Yep. The Kachuk brothers roomed together, and there was this whole thought about which one of the Kachuk brothers was going to get thrown through the wall, because those guys are probably still going at it to this day. But no, and they stayed there, and they developed a very strong relationship with the women's hockey team.
Yeah,
I mean, they were at all the women's games. JT Miller took his daughter to the women's games. I mean, I don't think people realize out there just how tight these two teams were. Now, when they come back and they scatter and they go to their respective teams in the NHL, their PWA, the PW, Professional Women's Hockey League, PWHL. Now they're going to get asked questions from the reporters that are going to be able to now also add into the politics of it all.
For sure.
And the thing that's really, a little bit saddening to me is that nobody's really covering how close these two teams really were and how they were supporting each other.
It's almost like the divide because of the president's FaceTime and the joke, and then how it was received.
Exactly.
I know.
And these teams got along so well, and they supported each other, and of course they're going to support each other. You think that those players on that Americans men's hockey team and the women, the way that they were raised by their families, by the family of USA Hockey, are not going to be supporting each other? And by the way, some of the players on the men's side did text privately to some of the women's members that they were sorry that they laughed at the president's joke. So that's how sensitive everybody
Jack
is.
Hughes' mom is part of the staff. You don't think he respects the hell out of that team and those women?
And his mom, to her credit, tried to douse the flames of political fire around all of this, and And it's funny because the players say they don't want it to be political, but when they wrap themselves in the flag and they show up to the State of the Union, in the eyes of the people that hate the president, that's political.
But fair. But I also
but I'm just saying that's their thought that I would say if it were me, and I don't care if it were Obama in office, I don't care if it were Biden in office, I don't care if it's Donald Trump in office. If I get invited by the president of the United States to go to the White House, I am going.
I agree. And to your point about wrapping yourself in the flag, making it political, it comes back to what you're doing. You're competing for your country. So while on one hand, sure, it's political, it also doesn't mean that everybody is an extremist with their political thoughts. They're competing for their country. If you're not going to wear the red, white, and blue, you're not going to be on the team.
I'm fortunate enough to have a hockey player in my life, okay? And his name is Matt Martin. And Matt is the epitome of what great hockey players are all about, who they are as people, who they are as fathers, who they are as players, as teammates, as leaders. I mean, I've been around this culture for so long that I see, the best part of who they are and why they have ascended to where they are. And I can say the same thing about the women. It was interesting, and I don't know if you knew this, but prior to the Olympic gold medal between the women's teams, the Americans and the Canadians, Hilary Knight, the captain, who is, blood, sweat, and tears for USA Hockey. Nobody has done more for USA Hockey as a player than Hilary Knight. Mm-hmm. She's scored more goals. She's the highest scorer in terms of assisting goals. She's done pretty much everything, and she's still playing. I think she's in her late 30s now, or mid-30s. She got engaged to her partner the night before the gold medal game, and her partner is a speed skater. And all I remember is going into that gold medal game, how that whole thing was celebrated, about how happy everybody was for Hilary Knight. And then for her, you want to talk about a storybook ending. They're losing the game. They have to pull their goalie, the Americans do, and Hilary Knight deflects in the game-tying goal before the game ends. And their game goes into overtime, and they win 3-on-3 against the Canadians. Mm-hmm. And, they've done things that American women have never done, on the ice. They have now set the standard. And believe you me, that they're winning. The way that they've carried themselves has also been supremely celebrated by the hockey community. I mean, I don't know what people are looking at. I don't know, now all these questions come to these poor athletes that they have to answer. And meanwhile, they've received everything that the men have received and will receive their invitation to the White House as well.
Yes, and this is, I know, very cliche now to say both things can be true, but they can be. Stupid joke, yes. Doesn't mean that the men don't respect them, that they didn't do an amazing job and they don't deserve all the glory as well, and they will get all the glory as well, and rightly so.
Right, you got to tell me that JT Miller brought his daughter to almost like 5 different games to show his daughter that, yes, you can be inspired and you can do what I do as a living, but you can do it, with your girls. You can 100%.
Do it. And we'll go back. I don't know if you saw it or not, but so Jack Hughes, he made sure to mention the women, before the game on the ice, which was great. Clearly had that in his mind, and also was, of course, asked about it after the game. And you just go back and listen to his answer, and he's well thought out. He knows what to say, how to say it, and it felt heartfelt because he's a good kid. So
he's a great. And by the way, a lot of these kids are still kids too. By the way,
I know they are. And,
not everybody's 35 years old and has years of experience like Hilary Knight.
And think about what your son was at 24. I mean, and that doesn't mean that they're not grown up and they're not men. They are, but 21, 22, they're still learning and figuring things out.
I just think about myself at the age of 24.
Yeah.
A
dumb kid figuring it out.
Right, and 40 years later, you have the wealth of experience going through everything you go through. But yeah, I just, last night the Devils did a great job. Jack Hughes did a great job. He represented the team really, really well. We'll see it tonight at the Garden.
Right.
It's the Flyers and the Rangers tonight.
So on that, you mentioned Mike Sullivan, and it has not been a good year for the Rangers. It hasn't been a good year for him, obviously, coming over and being the head coach. But at least tonight, you would think. So I've always said, and this might surprise you, but I have always said that the loudest building I've ever been in has been Madison Square Garden, and it wasn't for a Knick game, it wasn't for a St. John's game, it was for a Ranger game. I think it was 1985 against the Capitals in the playoffs, I think. I remember it was the first time I felt a building shake, and it was as loud, and maybe games, around other historic moments have been like this, but I wasn't at them. I've got to think tonight, in a down season, you're going to get a moment like that when these guys are introduced.
Oh, yeah, 100%, and they'll introduce obviously the American players and anybody else who played in the Olympics, much like I did appreciate what the Devils did for the other Devils players that played in the Olympics
for
as
other
well.
Teams,
because a lot of these guys basically said, the guys that didn't win the medals from other countries said, the experience is really just amazing because you're around so many different great athletes in one condensed place that they'll never forget that experience. And it's one of the reasons why, even though there is money being paid out to all the athletes that win gold medals and things now because things have changed since where we were 30 years ago. These athletes would do it for free. They would represent their country for free. They would. I mean, some athletes would. I know the hockey players would.
It became apparent. I mean, just listening to them talk, it sounds like that.
I guess
for sure.
They're all going to get $100,000 or something like that. I would imagine that most of them are all probably going to donate it right back to the U.S. Olympic Committee. Then I don't want the money. What they're going to want is the experience and the gold medal and going through, exactly what they all accomplished together in such a short period of time. So look, the national anthem's always great at Madison Square Garden. Remember when John Amarante was there?
Sure.
And he would always, and during the playoff games, it was insane. Tonight will be just like it was at the Rock last night. It's going to be raucous. It's going to be energized, and they're going to bring home their gold medals, and they're going to be saluted for that.
One other thing before we take a break, and this goes back to something you said in the middle of it, and this is more of a hockey/team type thing, getting away from the political part of it for a second, and the idea of all these other teams that didn't stay in the Olympic Village, and Team USA did. You mentioned the Kachucks and the Hughes and everything, but I've also got to think when you're together like that as a group, doing everything together for whatever it was, 2-3 weeks.
Almost 2.5 weeks.
Essentially. It almost feels, and I don't know, I wasn't near any of this, but it almost feels more like a business trip and a little colder for the other countries that do stay in the hotels or away from the village, whereas it seems like they really got the full experience and the camaraderie that they had. I'm not saying they won because of it, but it's got to be a part of it.
I'm sure they could have went to a 5-star hotel, like the soft Canadians did. But I also think that USA Hockey might have, pushed the envelope a little bit, saying, hey, why don't you stay here? Why don't you brothers room together and all this and be a part of the village and be a part of the entire experience? And then do get to know the girls' team. The other thing, too, is that the men's team, they basically, many of them said they skate with the women's skaters in the off season.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the women are as good as they are, because they push themselves and they dedicate themselves to these incredible heights, and you got to take your hat off to both of them. So, yeah, it was great. Last night was great. I'm sitting here saying I was rooting for the Devils.
You know what you are. Even you.
No.
Even you had the red and the black going last night.
I would have liked to have seen Jack Hughes score a goal.
For sure. Would have liked to have seen the win come off the break with a win.
We're getting a little crazy now.
No, I'm not getting crazy.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
They got out to a good start. It's not been a good season, partly because of his injury, obviously.
Yes.
But, you look at the standings, and they're way down there. They're not far away from the Rangers, essentially.
There's only 25 games left now, 24 for them. Yeah, so it's a sprint to the finish, and Buffalo, to their credit, turned their season around 8 weeks ago, and that was a huge win for them, and to get Tage Thompson on the board, that was big for them. So here we go. Now we're back into the NHL season, and the dreaded Flyers are coming to the Garden tonight.
No question. All right, we've got a lot to do. I promise we're going to get to, at some point, the warm-up show this morning. No. I'm gonna put it here. All right, and we'll get to it later, maybe even with CeeLo in.
Okay.
Let's just say segment 1 was about a-holes. Segment 2 was about a-holes. I'll just leave it there. And at some point, I'm going to get your take on this with CeeLo in there. Maybe next hour we'll do it, but we're going to get to that.